Channel open. Welcome back to Weekly Trek, a Star Trek news podcast presented by TrekCore.com. I am your host, Alex Perry.
What's today's date? The date.
Today's show was recorded on July 19th, 2026, and is current through Star Trek Starfleet Academy Season 1, so beware of spoilers. Alright, let's get into the show.
Good day, Voyager, and welcome to A Briefing with Neelix. It's a catchy title, isn't it?
Weekly Trek is a regular news show covering the biggest stories from the Star Trek franchise. We are in the Alex Kurtzman era of Star Trek with the 12th television show currently in production and 14 movies to enjoy, and merchandise continuing to fill the Bajoran wormhole. So stick with me and I'll help you sort the real facts from a lot of the Dominion propaganda that you'll find online. But I can't do this alone, and my guest this week is returning guest Jamie McGregor. Jamie, welcome back to Weekly Trek.
Thank you, Alex. Hope you are well and excited for another opportunity to chat about Star Trek and talk all about the stuff that is coming up in the next week as we look forward to the beginning of Strange New Worlds.
Oh, you know it. Well, Jamie, you know the drill. I want to know something that's got you excited about Star Trek at the moment. What's got you moving at Warp 10?
Well, the ability, let's just keep it simple this time, the ability to get on this show and talk to you about stuff that I have no idea as to what is going to happen, and we're all going to find out in 3 days' time. So Strange New Worlds coming up, you know, we know a little bit more each couple of days as Paramount has been dripping the news out, and we've only got, what have we got, 26 more episodes in the can of Star Trek to enjoy, and we're going to get
and then that's it forever. No, I'm just kidding.
And that's okay. At any rate, we've got 10 more in the next 10 weeks, and I can't wait for that. I will follow up with the sideline of saying that Star Trek Las Vegas is coming up, and I'm going to be lucky enough to go visit that. And, you know, with Strange New Worlds on at the time that STLV will be on, how could anyone who's planning on going to that not be traveling at Warp 10 right now? Looking forward to it massively, and I know you're planning to be there. So, I'm excited for it.
Oh, yes. 60th anniversary STLV. You could not keep me away. For sure.
I think the number of guests over the years, they've sort of extended the definition of what constitutes a guest, let's be honest.
Yes, it's a very loose definition these days.
It's a very loose definition of guest.
Anybody who walks across the stage is classified as
exactly
a guest.
Right. But even taking that into consideration, and even considering the fact that a few people unfortunately have had to drop out, Colin Meaney has dropped out as he is wanted to do on occasion, from my understanding. And you know, the people who are the busiest actors, you know, I'm sure that's what usually happens to them. But even considering the cancellations, there is a huge list of people that is coming to this convention. Like, it is I know people grumble about creation as if they're supposed to be a charity and not a business. Sometimes I see comments on the internet to that effect, but it looks like they've pulled out a lot of the stops to make this a really special convention. So I'm excited for it.
Yes, I will say this week when they said, oh, we've got a big 200th guest announcement. And I was like, oh my God, who's it going to be? Like, is it going to be, you know, someone from the movies who we haven't, like, have they finally gotten Chris Pine, you know, or was someone who's, you know, not been there for a few years, like a Malcolm McDowell or whatever. And then it's like, oh, we're thrilled to announce our 200th guest, Eugene Roddenberry Jr. And I was like, God, the only guest announcement less big than Rod Roddenberry goes every year would be his business partner, Trevor Roth. But then when you read down the announcement a little bit, and it's like, and Rod will be bringing the 33-inch Enterprise model from, you know, the famous publicity shots and that was used to film the opening credits that disappeared in the late 70s and then miraculously reappeared in a storage unit a couple of years ago. And I'm like, that's the 200 guests. Rod be great, fine, whatever. But like the
Rod was 201.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but that Enterprise, like, I am so excited that we will get the opportunity to see that. That will be high on my list of things to spend some time with. And, you know, should it go missing again for another 30, 40 years, so be it.
As a kind of East Coast DC person, you must have seen the Enterprise at the Smithsonian a gazillion times. I've gone to visit that, and so I'm excited to see a different model. And wanted to, you know, that original. That's going to be cool.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Well, actually, staying on the topic of ship models, the thing I'm feeling good about this week is I bought myself a new version of the original Playmates release of the USS Enterprise D from, I think, 1992 it came out. And
Jeez.
I had one when I was a kid. Obviously, I grew up in the UK. I spent a year living in Saudi Arabia for weird reasons. And I vividly remember coming across the Enterprise D at a toy shop in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. And I took my parents into buying it for me, and it was my most beloved possession for many, many years. Loved that ship. It was a great release. But when I went back to the UK a couple of years ago and was starting to slowly move stuff from my childhood bedroom, either, get rid of it or move it out here to the US, where I have since settled, I pulled my Enterprise D out of a box, and time had not been kind to it. It had turned a rather festive shade of yellow from too much sun damage. So I bid it a teary farewell. And like a week ago, I was just like, I miss that ship. I want one that's not been sitting out in the sun for 12 years. So I went on eBay and I bought one, and it arrived, and there are better Enterprise D, sort of like toy ship releases. Not the Playmates one that just came out. That one is dreadful. But the Diamond Select version that came out about 10, 15 years ago is probably the best. But for 1992, this Playmates version is pretty damn good. I mean, and that's not just the nostalgia speaking. Like, it is still pretty high up there on the list of best possible, sort of affordable model version of the Enterprise D you can get that you don't have to make yourself. And it's so funny that it's like one of the original releases, but it remains not quite King of the Castle, but it's very near King of the Castle. Now 40-ish, little under 40 years, little under 40 years later. So it's just very nice to have one again. And the one I've got, like the battery, the lights and sounds still works. You can fire the photon torpedoes and go to warp speed and everything. So yeah, I feel like a kid again.
Alex, that's amazing. Keep it out of the sun, mate. Keep it
yes.
like no more sun damage this time round. Otherwise, you'll have to put an eBay search alert on. And are these generally available at STLV? You couldn't have picked one up in the dealer's room. I'm just trying to think. I've seen a lot of models, but I'm not sure if I've seen that exact one.
That is the kind of thing you can get in the dealer's room. Problem with the dealer's room, though, is everything is about 50% more expensive than if you bought it on eBay.
Right.
You are paying like I bought it at the convention upcharge for all of that stuff. So,
and where did it ship from? Where did this one ship from?
Where did this one ship from?
Within the US?
Oh yeah, somewhere in Pennsylvania, I think.
Okay, right. So
yeah.
Okay, great. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
I feel young as when the world was new. All right. Well, with that, let's turn to the week's top stories.
There's a war going on, and I'm a reporter.
Well, Paramount Plus has announced the episode titles for the 4th season of Star Trek Strange New Worlds, revealed July 15th through the franchise's official social media accounts. The season premieres Thursday, July 23rd, that is just a couple of days from now, with Valus Marinaris kicking off a 10-week run on Paramount Plus. The remaining episodes are The Griffin Incident on July 30th, Human Best Friend on August 6th during STLV, A Case of Chiaroscuro on August 13th, Level 5 Transporter Accident on August 20th, Off Hour on August 27th, Like Chronotons Through the Hourglass on September 3rd, Orders of Magnitude on September 10th, and Once La'an a Time on September 17th. The season then concludes Thursday, September 24th with Tomorrow's Enterprise. Several titles invite immediate speculation. Level 5 Transporter Accident appears to correspond to the previously announced puppet episode produced with Jim Henson's Creature Shop. Once La'an a Time signals a spotlight installment for Christina Chong's La'an Noonien Singh, saying, while tomorrow's Enterprise carries an unmistakable echo of the Next Generation's celebrated third season episode, yesterday's Enterprise, raising questions about whether the finale will explore alternate timelines as the series moved towards its conclusion. The episode announcements were accompanied by stylized graphics reminiscent of the Topps Star Trek motion picture sticker trading cards from 1979. A very good year. Once season 4 completes its run in September, the series will go back on hiatus until season 5, now in post-production, which arrives in 2027. That 5th season will be the show's last, closing out the adventures of Captain Pike's Enterprise. Jamie, have these episode titles got you excited for Star Trek Strange New Worlds season 4?
Absolutely, and we're all doing trying to pitch and work out, okay, which episode title, aligns with which bit of the various trailers we've seen. I saw that Paramount released a longer trailer that kind of did a promo beat for each of the characters, which had some exciting, more weird Pelia, and I think it had Mbenga as a bartender trialing out Scotty's It's Green line.
Yep.
A little bit of fun with Ortega sending up Scotty's accent, and it seemed like that it was the particular promo piece was tuned more to fun side of things. So whereas I think the previous trailers had been more pitching, the adventure side of Strange New Worlds, and this seemed to be a bit of a social media. It was a lot more fun and upbeat and kind of jokey, which honestly was great, because I think Strange New Worlds at times has I've actually loved the humor of the show, and although some people have been not hugely happy with that, I'm not one of those some people. So I've kind of really enjoyed it when they've tried to play more comic content. I think yes, it sounds like yes, that transporter accident will be our Pike puppet show. I've seen a clip from the trailer of what looks like a medieval adventure kind of thing, which maybe that seems to be the Once Upon a Time or whatever that episode sounds like. Maybe that's what that one is. And as far as Strange New Worlds penchant for genre swings go, I don't want to frighten anyone, but the thought occurred to me, and Alex, it's my job in the last Weekly Trek before we know anything about these episodes to just throw out a bunch of bullshit, hoping seeing what this would happen or not. But like Chronotons through the hourglass, could they possibly do a genre swing and do like a soap opera style thing, like a Days of Our Lives kind of soap opera? So that's my question about that. I just know that they love finding a genre and playing in it, and it just seemed like an interesting episode title that might suggest we get, they put the Vaseline on the lens and do, I don't know, do something similar to that. I'm sure everyone out there on the internet would lose their freaking minds, but I'm just anyway.
Everyone would be completely reasonable and measured and normal about a decision like that. Of course they would.
Exactly. But the thought occurred to me. Anyway, there you go. That's my thinking about those episode titles so far.
Yeah, we saw that shot in the trailer of a dragon like spitting fire over the Enterprise. And somebody, I can't remember who, suggested they wondered if maybe it was going to be a bit of a Lower Decks crossover by visiting Hesperia, the planet of Andy Billups that they go to in Lower Decks, because it is sort of like, it is presented as being a Renaissance, like planet where
yes,
sort of lean into that stuff. So I mean, maybe not, but it does seem like a little tempting of a coincidence. So that was a really interesting thought. I haven't really seen other people share around online. So that's one that, sort of came to my mind coming off of this. Yeah, level 5 transporter accident, probably the puppet episode. Tomorrow's Enterprise is the season finale, though. That's obviously very clearly a reference to yesterday's Enterprise. I half jokingly said to someone in one of the group chats I'm in that my pitch for tomorrow's Enterprise is that a rift opens in front of the Strange New Worlds Enterprise, and the Enterprise D comes back in time from the moment before the Enterprise C goes back in time from yesterday's Enterprise, and Pike has to convince Picard and crew to turn around and go back to a doomed timeline in order to then get the Enterprise C to go back to a doomed timeline.
Yes.
Yeah. If I were to roll the dice, I'm going to bet that it has absolutely no connection beyond just an evocative name to the Next Generation episode, Yesterday's Enterprise. There is a really interesting shot in the trailer of Uhura kissing Scotty.
Yes.
And the shot is Uhura with the more traditional TOS style beehive hairdo, and the rank braid on her sleeve is not a TOS rank braid, but it's different from the Strange New Worlds version of the rank braid. And so I wonder if that's a shot from that episode, and that there's going to be some kind of like alternate timeliney, sort of future-y type thing. I mean, partially what I want, what I would really like is for Uhura to adopt the like 1960s hairstyle at some point during the season and just have that be her hair, because that's, sort of a nice tie-in with TOS. But the slight difference in the uniform did make me wonder if that then pointed to it's something from this episode and there's going to be another USS Enterprise and hijinks.
Yeah.
Will ensue.
Hijinks. Well, I'm all up for hijinks. I too hope that the direction they follow is to kind of, just in terms of the look and feel of the characters, shift them slowly, piece by piece over these 10 episodes and the 6 coming next year to the, more into the look and feel of what those characters appear as at the beginning of the original series. So when I saw that, I just thought that was part of that decision making. But I see where you're going with the alternate kind of timey-wimey kind of thing. I mean, just as you're talking now, I've just logged on to Polymarket, and I'm just putting a bet on an appearance by Denise Crosby. There you go. In episode 10, wouldn't it be, I don't know, I don't care what character or how, but let's get Denise back into the franchise. There you go. Wouldn't you'd be happy with a crossover there, wouldn't you, in the season finale?
I absolutely would. I mean, and when we think about it, right, so I'm just, my brain's kind of spinning up now, like, argument against that shot of Uhura and Scotty being from the season finale and it being an alternate Enterprise thing. They already did that for season 1, right? Like, they sort of looked ahead to a TOS episode.
It would mine territory they'd already mined.
Exactly. You'd be doing the same thing all over again. Argument in favor of not necessarily Denise Crosby and Yesterday's Enterprise, but argument in favor of some very big episode that has a lot of meaty, juicy stuff for people who have been fans for a prolonged period of the last 60 years. It's the 60th anniversary of Star Trek. Like, I mean, if you were making a 60th anniversary tribute episode and you were doing something really big on the scale of like a Trials and Tribulations successful version of it, or Flashback, marginally unsuccessful version of it, wouldn't you call it Tomorrow's Enterprise? Like, so maybe it is, it is entirely possible that there is some big and exciting thing coming at the end of the season that's fully under wraps and we just don't know about it yet because they're preserving the surprise. But I guess we will just have to wait and see. Luckily, it's only 10 and a bit weeks away.
10 and a bit weeks out. My thinking, though, in all seriousness, because I don't have the money to waste on Polymarket, unfortunately, is I also just think I like the fact that the show should be wrapped around Anson Mount's Pike. Like, I think that, and I hope the beginning of the season, it appears to be I think this looks like it's going to be a Pike-centered adventure. And my feeling is that obviously this is an ensemble show. I think Pike as an overall character in the first couple of seasons, there was some amazing stuff for that character and kind of got sidelined a little bit, especially as they find ways to shoehorn Kirk in, which I'm okay with. But I am hoping that at the very least, the season finale is a Pike-centric. And obviously we have a lot to talk about Pike's future. There is a clip in the trailer where they're talking about Pike and his, the way that he has interacted with both his past and his future through the series already and knows what's coming both now and in Discovery. And I hope that they continue as the series goes to do justice to that character so that when we do get to the end of the remaining 16 episodes, that has been a satisfying resolution of the fate of that character. So I'm hoping that regardless of what we get in episode 10, that the show as a whole keeps a focus on Pike's character. Anyway, that's just my preference.
Well, with season 4 of Strangely Worlds premiering later this week, showrunners Akiva Goldsman and Henry Alonso Myers are previewing what's ahead and addressing the show's ongoing continuity debate in a new cover story for the August issue of SFX magazine. The pair teased the flavors of the season's first 4 episodes, describing a pulpy adventure homage in the spirit of Edgar Rice Burroughs, a genuine Star Trek ghost story, a hangover-style shore leave comedy, and a noir thriller that supplies a science fiction rationale for its black and white presentation. Those descriptions map onto the recently revealed episode titles Valus Marinaris, The Griffin Incident, Human Best Friend, and A Case of Chiaroscuro. On continuity, the showrunners push back against fan criticism that the series has strayed too far from the original series, from Lieutenant Kirk's recurring presence aboard Pike's Enterprise, which strains dialogue from the menagerie, to the dramatic reinvention of the Gorn. Goldsman was direct, telling SFX that whatever some fans may say, the producers believe the show shares the original series' continuity. That conviction extends to this season's appearance by a young David Marcus, Kirk's son. Myers framed the storyline as a chance to rethink Kirk's absence from David's childhood, noting the writers couldn't imagine the heroic Kirk as a bad father, opening emotional territory the franchise never explored. Goldsman also reaffirmed that every character arc will resolve by the end of season 5 in 2027, counting for departures like La'an, Ortegas, and Number One, and M'Benga's handoff to Dr. McCoy. Jamie, what do you think about the decision to explore David Marcus in Strangely Worlds Season 4?
I love it. It fits within the canon, and I think this is where we need to make, or I like to make a big point, which is some people get too wound up around this kind of stuff, and I think Strange New Worlds has largely done a great job of staying within the confines of what is needed to be and needs to be respected as in inverted commas canon, pushing the envelope when they need to. And people have to remember it's fitting in with a television show that was created at a time and a place where it itself wasn't internally consistent. You know, the content within TOS is not internally consistent. So preventing the show as it is now from taking advantage of things that can be easily explained, you know, with one line of dialogue or something along those lines, and preventing them from telling these stories because of something that is otherwise easily explained or could otherwise be easily explained seems a little pointless to me. So the fact that they're finding little niches in the existing source material to flesh out what actually happened in some of these cases, that's the whole reason for the show's existence. So for something like, you know, David Marcus to appear and for us to have a bit more of an understanding about what happened and how and why, I'm all for it. Sounds good to me. So I'm fully supportive of these two showrunners taking the approach that they have, and I'm excited to see where they go with it. We just got to work out which episode it'll be.
Yeah, 3 points about David Marcus. Number one, there are 15 years between Space Seed and Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, and David is clearly in his early to mid-20s in Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, so he was definitely alive for several years before the original series, which means that having a, you know, like David Marcus being in a pre-TOS timeframe absolutely tracks with what we already know. Number two, Kirk was aware of David Marcus. He explicitly says in the movie, I did what you wanted, I stayed away. And so we know that he's known this whole time that he had a son.
Yes. This is not a Picard situation.
Exactly, right, exactly. And number three, the line in the movie is that, but they didn't decide that Captain Kirk had a son, the writers, out of universe until Nicholas Meyer sat down to write Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. So the show never explored it because at that point in time, nobody had in their head that Captain Kirk had a son he never saw. So I actually think it's super interesting that we're going to revisit this because it doesn't happen in TOS. And yet this whole time, Kirk is a father. He knows he's a father. And like, so I'm super interested in getting a little bit of a flavor of what is that like for this Kirk at this early point in, because I think in season 2 he refers to Carol as being pregnant, so David is at most 18 months, 2 years old, this being 2 seasons on, maybe 2.5, like, you know, so this is really early in David's life. And since we had that line in season 2, there is a relationship between James Kirk and Carol Marcus within a period of time close to when this episode takes place. So yeah, like I'm super interested in seeing sort of a look at the decision making that goes into, okay, now I'm not going to be I'm going to do what you've asked and stay away for the next 15 years before I, run into you, my son, again, and don't super recognize you. And that's the reason why people sort of watch the movie and are like, oh, he didn't know he had a son, because he doesn't immediately see him and go, oh, you're my son. But the dialogue clearly establishes that he did know about David, even if he hasn't kept up with him, such that he wasn't in a position to immediately recognize him when he met him.
Yeah, no, I mean, it fits. The ridiculous criticism that the writers don't know the source material that they're dealing with never ceases to amaze me. Here's a slightly different question if I take this off on a different direction for you, Alex. In the concept of the writers and the producers finding little niches of backstory of stuff that, we didn't know or didn't, at the time wasn't a thing. Here's a question. Obviously, we got to look at Cybok. Do you want more? Do you want resolution to that storyline, or are you satisfied that shot we got was all we should get until Star Trek V?
That's a great question. I was very much of the feeling after Serene Squall aired that, yes, unquestionably, I really liked that episode. And I thought the Cybok tease was super fun, and I was all in on them doing more on it. Now that it's been a few years and we haven't seen more of him, I could go either way. I'm not I got to see Cybok again. So yeah, I would be really happy for them to pick up that kind of story and do more with it.
Totally. A little thread they've left dangling there,
yes.
Right? And I wonder whether or not it was always intended to just be a little, a little moment, a little kind of, a little moment for the fans, or whether or not, because it kind of felt at the time, well, this is how it felt to me, like they might be setting him up as a bit of a foil for future episodes. So yeah, I just wasn't sure which way you would prefer it to go.
Yeah, I think the way, if I'm recalling correctly, some of the interviews that took place around the time, I don't know that it was 100% just a throwaway for the fans thing. But they did say they didn't hire a Cybok actor who would then be the actor if he came back and had a ton of dialogue. They just got some guy who from behind would look the part and shot that. So, it's not like they were doing it's Denise, or at least it's Denise Crosby's voice in the mind's eye that is a tease for Denise Crosby's going to come back a few episodes later as Tasha Yar's daughter, Sealer in Redemption Part 1. So, I don't think they had thought sufficiently about it that they were yeah, this is going to be the start of a Cybok arc. And then, I mean, obviously, because now 2.5 seasons have already passed and we haven't seen him again. So, yeah, they definitely weren't doing Serene Squall thinking, oh, yeah, there's going to be a Cybok episode in season 2. So let's kind of seed that now. But I don't think it was 100% just well, we'll just throw it in there, but we have no intention of ever revisiting it. And given how much interest there was in that moment, it did feel from the way they talked about it in interviews, it sort of gave them a sense of oh, people responded really well to this. Maybe if we were 50-50 on whether we were going to do something again, this is made a 60-40 or 70-30. So, I guess we'll just have to see. Well, Star Trek returns to San Diego Comic-Con this week, and with the franchise's 60th anniversary on deck, the presence is relatively substantial. The centerpiece is Saturday's Hall H panel that is Saturday, July 25th at 12:30 p.m. Pacific Time, featuring the Strange New Worlds cast, including Anson Mount, Rebecca Romaine, Ethan Peck, Christina Chong, Sally Rose Gooding, Melissa Navia, and Paul Wesley, alongside showrunners Henry Alonso Myers and Akiva Goldsman and franchise head Alex Kurtzman. The panel's second half then shifts to a 60th anniversary celebration spanning the entire franchise, with George Takei, Michael Dorn, Robert Picardo, Connor Trinier, Doug Jones, Cirroc Lofton, Michelle Hurd, Jerry O'Connell, and Starfleet Academy's Kareem DNA joining Christina Chong on stage. The night before, Friday, July 24th at 7 p.m, the Balboa Theatre hosts a free screening of the Season 4 premiere, plus an early look at Episode 2 of Season 4. No badge is required, but tickets are limited and RSVPs are mandatory. Galley. At the Paramount Plus Lodge, a recreation of the show's shipboard bar, the Port Galley, anchors the space, and the Roddenberry estate will debut the first public display of the recovered 33-inch original Enterprise model built in 1965. The same model we were talking about will also be at STLV. And as far as licensee events go, Thursday's Star Trek The Collector Frontier panel brings together LEGO and Magic the Gathering with exclusive reveals promised, and Star Trek Fleet Command hosts an off-site 60 Years of Star Trek Archives experience featuring archive pieces and a holodeck VR experience. Jamie, what are you hoping for from this year's San Diego Comic-Con?
Good question. I mean, there's a couple of things interesting to note about this. Obviously, no one's going to be grilling Kurtzman about his future with the franchise from this stage, because all of those questions will have been neatly pre-vetted and predetermined. So I'm not expecting to find out anything about that, although I would like to know it. I do think it's interesting that they're not doing a Starfleet Academy panel at all. Obviously, if Starfleet Academy, we've got another season of the show coming up. If everything was normal, there would definitely be some kind of preview of the next season of that show. So it's disappointing that that's not happening. I would also point out that the second half of the panel, which is the 60th anniversary panel, which that could be anything. Maybe they've got something to announce. Maybe it's just a celebration of the 60 years of Star Trek. It'd be lovely if they had something interesting that we don't know about to announce. Even if it's just an anniversary panel, I did notice, and I think I might be right on this, but I might be wrong. If you think through, I think the only show missing representation is Prodigy, unless you want to count Bob Picardo as being both Academy and Prodigy and Voyager. But there is another Academy person in Karim DNA. So I just thought that I was just a bit disappointed in the continual Prodigy erasure that goes on from Paramount, because honestly, it's one of my favorite of the Kurtzman era shows. They seem to be missing. But do you think that there will be some kind of announcement, or do you think that 60th anniversary panel is simply being put together to celebrate the series and the franchise as a whole?
My expectations for San Diego Comic-Con this year, main panel reveals are low. Like, I want that. I want to get some sense of what comes next. I want to hear about there being new shows in the works, or an announcement connected to this Star Trek movie that, has been re-greenlit and now is being shepherded by the Dungeons and Dragons guys. I want to know what the direction of the franchise is moving forward, but unless Alex Kurtzman has re-signed his deal with Skydance, that's not going to happen because Alex Kurtzman is there. So if it's not Alex Kurtzman, they're not going to be like, pull the shepherd's hook out and hook him off stage to then get the next guy up there to be like, and now introducing Naren Shankar, whoever, whoever it is who, going to be the guy to take over the franchise after Alex Kurtzman's deal expires. I think it's the end of this year. So unless they're coming to say, good news, I've re-signed my deal and all is moving forward, then I don't think we're going to get anything. And as you say, it's super notable. It's July. Starfleet Academy Season 2 theoretically is in January. For every other show where it's been like Q1 of the next year, they've had a first thing ready to go at San Diego Comic-Con the year before. I mean, they had the first Starfleet Academy trailer at San Diego Comic-Con last year, and that premiered in January. So it's really notable that they're just sort of sidestepping that. I mean, I'm sure they'll do a New York Comic-Con panel, and that's where they'll do something, but it is kind of a little bit like, we've sort of already thrown in the towel on this show if we're not going to do it. But maybe they do, right? Maybe they just don't want to bring the whole cast in, but they'll still be in the midway point between the Strange New Worlds panel and the 60th anniversary panel. Oh, we've got a special surprise. You didn't think we were bringing anything Starfleet Academy, but here's a season 2 trailer. So I don't know, but reading the press release and looking at all the events, I just don't get the vibes that this is a San Diego Comic-Con where they're going to tell us this is what comes next for Star Trek after the end of Strange New Worlds and Starfleet Academy.
So what's weird about that, though, is that someone at Paramount's marketing department is paid, aren't they? This is Strange New World is primarily featured on the pass to get into the
badges.
into the event, is it not?
Yeah, all have the Enterprise on them.
Like that seems, if you kind of checking out on Star Trek as a, I mean, okay, I get that the actual season of Strange New Worlds is premiering literally, like it couldn't be better timing, right? I'm sure that that's not a coincidence as well. Literally, episode 1 is the same week as the convention, but still, that, I mean, I imagine that they paid something for that, and it seems weird that they would in this year if they've got absolutely nothing. I mean, I'm not reading anything into anything. It's just surprising that Paramount chosen to really heavily push the show to all the attendees in a year where maybe they don't have all of that much to announce.
Yeah. I guess we'll see. It's a few days away, but I'm just keeping my expectations rock bottom. And I would love to be surprised. I would love to be completely wrong and for there to be some big hopeful announcement that makes us go, yeah, super excited for what's going to happen in 2028. Because right now we don't know anything about 2028 for Star Trek beyond this sort of looming sense of there being nothing.
It's a secret to happiness, Alex. Keep your expectations low. You know, how good. Yeah. That's the secret. That's the secret sauce right there.
It's especially, a sad way to live, but it does.
Have we been disappointed by Paramount before?
many times. Well, and lastly this week, Factory Entertainment has opened convention season with 4 limited-run Star Trek collectibles, all available for pre-order now, and all rooted firmly in the original series era. Leading the lineup is a second run of the USS Excelsior teacup replica from Star Trek VI The Undiscovered Country. The porcelain cup Captain Sulu famously drops when the shockwave from Praxis strikes his ship. The original 2020 run of 250 units sold out in under 2 hours. This edition expands to 500 units at $49.99 with gift box and numbered certificate of authenticity. Next is a replica of Lieutenant Uhura's communication station earpiece from the original series, crafted in machined aluminium with a clear molded earpiece. Mirroring the construction of the screen use props, it includes a Starfleet Delta display and ships in a magnetic flap gift box, priced at $89.99 and limited to 500 pieces. The remaining 2 exclusives recreate a pair of the Enterprise's most dangerous adversaries. An 8-inch resin replica of the Planet Killer from the Doomsday Machine comes with a display stand and a removable battle-damaged miniature USS Constellation that mounts inside the weapons maw, priced at $99.99, and a 5-inch replica of Dr. Richard Daystrom's M5 computer from the Ultimate Computer rounds out the set at $69.99, also with display stand. All 4 items are expected to ship in August, and if the Excelsior Teacup's history is an indication, collectors may not want to wait. Pre-orders are open now at factoryentertainment.com. Jamie, are you tempted by any of these releases?
You know, over the years, I haven't really been one to get too much into the way of merchandise, but, you know, as I've been listening to, WeeklyTrek over
I've converted you to a nacelle, man.
You know, yes. And to be honest, I ended up with the Picard tea set, you know, being a proud Commonwealth man myself, you know, drinking tea is one of the great pieces of civilization left to me. So, the Picard tea set did make its way to my apartment. I think I've got the Janeway coffee mug from the Voyager documentary. So I might have to complement that with the Sulu one.
The Sulu, yeah. I mean, the Excelsior teacup's pretty great. Especially the tea guy. You got to drink out of an Excelsior teacup.
Exactly. And I missed it the first time around. So I think if I was, I think that one's going to go in my purchasing cart. The others, I've got to say, a little weird, just to be honest. The earpiece is kind of cool. I don't know who would. I'm not sure who would want that, but I'm sure there's a stack of people out there that do. And I hope it's hugely successful, because I also, you know, you never know there's no accounting for taste. So if the more of these things get created, the better it is for all of us, you know, like how good the Doomsday Machine as well looks kind of cool. The M5 is the one of those that I'm the most interested in. I think it's perfect timing just before AI completely takes over our lives, and we regret it. You know, it'd be nice to have a little keepsake just to prove to ourselves and our humanity that no matter how bad things get, we still have some hope that, you know, we might be able to get, you know, Claude and whatever other, you know, ChatGPT to argue against each other and destroy each other at some point in the future. You know, throw Gemini in there and the rest of them. So I do find find that that's the one of the pieces that they've got is the one piece that where Star Trek was hugely ahead of its time in imagining, from a science fiction perspective, what was coming, and an interesting time in our lives to live through some of it. So anyway, bottom line, Sulu Cup, one purchase. There you go. That's what's in my future. What about you?
For me, I think it's the Doomsday Machine because it's got the little USS Constellation.
Mm-hmm.
I love the Doomsday Machine, the episode. I'm not like a big that's what an amazing design, the Doomsday Machine. And I do have the Eagle Moss version, but this one has just the tiny little USS Constellation, and that really tickles me. I haven't pre-ordered it yet because I'm trying to be sensible and not immediately order so much of this stuff, but that one is speaking to me.
Alex, it's a long time since 1992. I don't want to hear, I don't want to hear in another 30 years or whatever it is, you're saying, I've had to pick up the Doomsday Machine from screen,
true.
Whatever it is on whatever the version of eBay is. Then just get it now. Just get it now. Don't, Alex, don't kid yourself. You want it. You want it. Just
make a compelling argument, Jamie.
Hit buy. And hopefully we'll get more things.
All right, well, we've talked about the facts, and now let's offer our opinions on the Star Trek franchise.
Your opinion has been noted. Anything further?
So as we transition from the news section to the opinion section, each week my guests and I will give you a Star Trek opinion, wish, or theory we're nurturing that week about any aspect of the Star Trek franchise we want to opine on. So Jamie, let's hear it. What's your big Star Trek opinion for this week?
So I've been on the show for a little while since Academy got, given short shrift after its...
Academy both came and went since you were last on this.
Yes, alas. And to be honest, I enjoyed it. Did I think it was the greatest Trek? And, no, but I really enjoyed the show. And did I think that the reaction to it was ridiculous? Yes, especially in the YouTube outrage military industrial complex, that Eisenhower warned us of. However, my theory for you is I think that Academy was almost doomed, even if all of that anti-woke nonsense backlash hadn't happened. That's and I haven't really, I think there was a lot of storm and drang about it, when the cancellation came out. And a lot of that centered on things like, the backlash or the fact that Paramount, with the merger, there's a lot of money owed now. And I think that the latter is probably more to do with it all than the former. And I think what I do remember talking to you about previously was just about the decision that they've made to make the season 2 finale a cliffhanger. And you clearly don't make that decision if you think that things are, if you think that there's any chance that you're not going to continue. But I just look back at the last few years of where we've gone, and what happened to Prodigy. We ended Lower Decks. We truncated Discovery when they weren't expecting it. Clearly, their most successful show, I think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think it's pretty clear that their most successful show, Kurtzman's most successful show, is Strange New Worlds, right?
Yes.
They had to argue for a 5th season, and even then, they weren't given 10 episodes. They could only squeeze 6 out of the budget. And I just wonder whether there was actually a parallel universe. If we're doing tomorrow's Enterprise, is there actually a parallel universe in which Starfleet Academy actually would have gotten a 3rd season? And I'm interested as to what would that show have had to have done in order to get a 3rd season. And I think that it was behind the 8 ball at all stages, because just the marketing of the show, its position on Paramount Plus, the fact that just the nature of who is watching that streaming service. It seems like a show conceived in the middle of the streaming era, but produced as the streaming era is dying, and, was released as the streaming era has basically now died, right? And so I'm feeling a bit sorry for everybody involved, but I just wonder, my theory is that I don't think it was going to get renewed anyway. And one day when the history of the show is written in some way, shape or form, I wonder whether or not we will find out more about that as to, what is the actual truth behind that. And did the YouTube commentators and the tweets from the White House and all this kind of stuff, was that actually just all noise? And did the show actually ever have a real chance, or did it have to become become like some kind of major hit on Paramount Plus in order for it to have been given a third season. Do you know where I'm going with that?
Totally. And I think you're right. I think the money had everything to do with it. I think the parallel universe in which Starfleet Academy gets a third and a fourth season is one in which it's made 2 or 3 years earlier. Because I just think the sort of add together all the factors of Paramount itself running out of money, and then they're bringing in Warner Brothers and all the costs they're expected to be there and all the debt both of those two companies are carrying, that Starfleet Academy is sort of the first of a lot of this kind of stuff we're going to see out of these two companies. I mean, they're putting on a really, brave face for the purposes of getting through the merger. Oh, yeah, we're going to maintain the, number of, we're going to have 30 movies in theaters every year. No way they're going to get 30 movies in the theater every year. Like, where's the money going to come for doing that? And I think Star Trek has been successful as a whole, but not sufficiently successful as to protect it from these wider forces, and at the same time they made a really expensive show. I mean, I think they said the Starfleet Academy budget was, that Discovery's budget was much larger than Starfleet Academy's budget, but still, like, they built the biggest set in North America for that show. I mean, there's no world in which that's cheap, and I just think given all of the costs that the studios are facing and the debt burden that they're laboring under, Starfleet Academy was going to have to have been light years more successful than any Star Trek show has been in order for it to secure its future. And just being as popular as other Star Trek shows doesn't cut it. I mean, and we've talked about this in previous episodes, like, it is really difficult to ascertain how popular the show is. We know it wasn't more popular than the other Star Trek shows because it didn't make it onto the Nielsen top 10 for the 10 weeks that it was on, but only a few Strange New Worlds episodes would have made it onto the top 10 given
the numbers, right?
Yeah, given the numbers that there were across those 10 weeks. So, like, I've said this before, it could have been 2 million minutes less than the number 10 slot. It's not making it on. But if it was 2 million minutes less than the number 10 slot, that's still a lot better than some of the episodes that did make it onto the top 10 from previous years when just the amount of watching was lower. So it's like, but it could be 2 million minutes below the 10th place, or it could be 100 million minutes below the 10th place. We just don't know, and that's kind of the sucky thing about the streaming era. It's like we have a sense of the popularity of the top 10 shows, and then everything else is just a black box where it's like, well, it's not in the top 10, but does that mean it's in the top 20, or does that mean it's in the bottom 50,
Yeah, and the studios keep their cards close to their chest.
100%.
For obvious reasons. And we should be ending on a positive, and I do want to make it clear. I'm sure that CBS is and Paramount now are run by cretins. Don't get me wrong. I completely agree with that, and I think that the content of the show is perhaps not where that particular network or organization is headed. But I suspect that had actually very little to do with anything. Is my suspicion. But on a positive aspect, look, we've got these 26 more episodes, so let's make the most of them, and hopefully we will find out if we get something new and different, and we'll find that out pretty soon.
Well, you're doing your best to end us on a high note, but I'm going to bring us right down with my opinion this week, which is that I think the 60th anniversary celebration from the studio has been crap. We launched a new Star Trek show that we cancelled. We're just talking about San Diego Comic-Con with like a sense of like, are they going to say anything interesting? Not really. There isn't obviously we've got STLV, but there isn't outside of the cruise an official convention this year like they did for the 50th. The merchandise stuff has been okay, but it's just sort of a continuation of 2025 and 2024. There's been a lot of really compelling 60th anniversary stuff. And unless in the next 10 episodes of Strange New Worlds, they pull out a barn burner of a 60th anniversary episode, we're going to get 2 seasons of Star Trek that's not really going to have like a, like an on-screen celebration of the franchise like we got for the 30th. It's all feeling a little dour and drab. And of course, there's plenty of ways that the fans are celebrating the 60th anniversary. I launched a whole podcast. I don't know if you've heard about it. Warp Factor 5, a Star Trek Rewatch podcast. So like there's plenty of ways that Star Trek is being celebrated for the 60th anniversary, just none of it's really coming from Paramount Skydance, which is a huge shame because this was the first time since the 30th anniversary. So the first time in 30 years that Star Trek was on the air during a big 10th anniversary, and they're whiffing it. And I think they're gonna whiff it. And, unless we get something out of San Diego Comic-Con, or unless we get something out of the back half of Strange New Worlds Season 4, we're gonna let this anniversary pass us by. And that sucks, because guaranteed by the time the 70th anniversary comes around, the original series stars will not still be with us. Because if William Shatner is still alive for the 70th anniversary, he would be 105 years old. So...
Don't bet against
Shatner,
him.
So
don't bet against him.
Yeah. Don't go on Polymarket and place that bet. So I think this is our last opportunity to really fate the original series era before the original series era steps off the stage. And I think Paramount have completely whiffed the ball on it, and that sucks. And yeah, I don't have anything more deeply sophisticated to say about it than that.
Well, the response is exactly as you said, Alex. We just have to do it ourselves.
Just got to do it ourselves.
I will see you in Vegas, and there'll be other opportunities for us to celebrate the franchise. I have heard of the new podcast. What was it called again?
Oh, you mean Warp Factor 5, a Star Trek rewatch
Warp
podcast?
Factor 5? Yeah, no, I have heard of that. Although its first episode referred to Weekly Trek as regularly having episodes that spoiled like milk. So
yes.
let's hope that this is one of those cases, Alex, and that this episode is one of your biggest whiffs.
I dare you.
Yeah, exactly. This will be one of your biggest whiffs. They're going to come out on the San Diego stage and wow everyone with a bold new strategy for Star Trek on television, or at least proof that the movie actually has life, either of which I think would be greatly appreciated by everybody. But look, if that doesn't happen, we'll have to find our own ways to celebrate the franchise and keep the flame alive.
I desperately wish on an episode I will hopefully be recording this time next week to eat my own words, and I will be thrilled to do so. But yeah, we'll see. Do you have an opinion, theory, or wish about Star Trek that you'd like to share? Email them to me at weeklytrek@trekcore.com, and I might feature your thoughts in a future episode. Well, that's all the time we've got for this episode of Weekly Trek. Thank you so much to my guest, Jamie McGregor, for joining me today. Jamie, how can people contact you if they want to continue the conversation?
I think most of my social is inactive, but I'm on Instagram, Jamie_MCG. Feel free to catch me there. Other than that, look forward to seeing those of you who I know and celebrate this podcast in Weekly Trek in STLV.
And you can find the show on X at Weekly Trek, and me at Alexander T. Perry on X, and at Alex T. Perry on Blue Sky, Threads, and everywhere else. And if you enjoy the show, please consider leaving us a 5-star review on your podcast player of choice. And for all your Star Trek news needs, in addition to our extensive media archives of all things Star Trek, I hope you will keep your senses locked to TrekCore.com. Well, thank you, Jamie. Thank you to all of my listeners. And until next week, live long and prosper. Weekly Trek is a production of TrekCore.com and owned by Trapezoid Media, LLC.